Record here, and we're going to get started because we've got limited time. All right, so let's see. So what I'm going to do here, folks, is I'm going to mute everybody except for me. Can you still hear me, Jenny? Or can you hit me up through chat if you can hear me? It looks like I'm coming through just fine. Great. All right, folks, so we're going to get started here. So first of all, I'm Eric, and I'm going to do a little intro here in a moment, but since we're doing this as a recorded webinar, I wanted to mention a few things. First of all, I've muted everybody just to kind of cut down on the background noise while we're talking. And if you have questions in the little GoToMeeting control panel that you've got up, there's a little chat window down at the bottom, or a chat section. And if you put your questions in there, we'll be watching for them, and we'll try and make sure to address them. Several people who signed up for the webinar, when they filled out the sign-up form, gave us some ideas of things that they wanted to know more about during the webinar. So we're going to cover some of those questions while we go through the presentation, and then we're going to reserve some time at the end where we can answer questions individually, or take one-off questions. And if we go past the hour, that's just fine. We just want to be helpful here. So I think that's that. So introductions, I'm Eric Amundsen. Many of you may know who I am, but I am the founder of IvyCat, and sort of, I don't know what I do here. I do all sorts of stuff. I wear a bunch of hats, but one of the things I do is write a little bit of copy, usually for our own site, but Jenny, who is on the call with us, Jenny Bones, is a copywriter, and she's been working with IvyCat for a few years now, and is currently our content manager on ivycat.com. So she's in charge of making sure our blog posts get up, and she does a lot of our social networking and stuff like that. Really talented. And actually, I'll unmute you, Jenny. So Jenny's got a lot of experience with copywriting, has done a lot of stuff to, what I love about working with Jenny is she's really good at getting the voice that's needed for different clients. So, when writing on the IvyCat site, we write pretty informally to clients, but when working with larger corporations or whatever, they may have a different voice that they write in. And I really appreciate Jenny's ability to get in and suss out that voice and really write to the customer in the voice that they need. So before we go a little bit further, I think that this is a really good place to say, how do you know that you're writing to your customer? And quite honestly, I get surprised a lot when we talk to our customers and ask them about their clients and what their clients need, who their clients are. And it's interesting how many times people really just don't have a good idea of who their typical client is, or how their typical client needs to be spoken to in order to inspire action or to engage with them on the website. So I have a few ideas about how to kind of get that information, but Jenny, what do you think? When you're trying to kind of suss out the voice or figure out what voice you need to be writing to reach a certain type of customer, how do you go about that?
Well, I always call them our perfect people. And the way that I suggest small business and solopreneurs to start doing that is to start really making a profile of their perfect person. Somebody who wants what they have to offer, somebody who can afford what they have to offer, and then somebody that really inspires them to work with. So me as a business owner, who's it going to inspire me? Who do I want to work with?
Mm-hmm.
And once you identify that, you can really just create one person to start writing to, and create kind of an attraction type deal. And soon, without fail, your business will start filling up with all the people that you love to work with, and
Yeah.
You can actually avoid the ones that you don't.
Yeah, one technique that we've talked about before is personas, and you mentioned this yourself, but sometimes I like to even boil it down to, so personas being, everybody's got sort of a stereotype of their customer. So To use an example, we have a customer out in North Carolina who does a lot of like walking food tours. So if you're in North Carolina and you want to see the best, foodie kind of locations or whatever, she runs these food tours where she walks people around the city and stuff. So her typical customer, we could probably make a stereotype. She probably has more women than men that sign up for these walking tours, or there's probably plenty of men that attend them, but that's probably driven more by women. If we were to really dig down into what are the age groups we're talking about, we could probably identify that her average customer is between 30 and 40 or something like that. I don't actually know what it is, but basically asking these questions of yourself and your customers, your employees, even doing customer surveys can kind of help come up with who is your stereotypical person. And oftentimes, like I've even done this, gone so far as to grab a Time magazine and cut out a picture of someone who represents that stereotype and just tape it up on the wall. And so while I'm writing content, I'm looking up at this picture of this 30 something lady, and making sure that my content really addresses her needs.
That's a
So,
really good idea. Yeah,
yeah.
because that's all you need to do.
Yeah.
One person. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, so my first statement is get in touch with your customers. Make sure you're writing to your customers. Like we've had plenty of jobs over the years where we start asking for content from the customer, and it's really, really dry and boring stuff. It sounds like it was written for an IBM engineer or something. And I want to go back to them and say, are you trying to lull the customer into sleep, or just make them, so tired that they'll say yes no matter what? But really what you want to do is make them excited. And like when they read that copy, they should think they know what I'm talking about. They know what I need. And I'm going to find the next step to take so that I can go forward. So anyway, so what we're going to cover today is kind of how to get people to click with good headlines. Another thing, we've got 10 quick steps to a better blog post. And then tackling some of the challenges with the about page. Like when you're creating an about page on the site, what's different about an about page than you would see on a normal home page or something like that. So how to basically tailor your about page so that it works for the job an about page should do. And then finally, we'll wrap up by like why stories sell, talking about the importance of kind of interjecting stories or narrative in your copywriting. And then we'll follow up with questions. And because we've got limited time here, I am gonna go forward, and we'll talk about getting people to click. So Jenny, I'm going to turn this over to you. You want to run us through this? And
Yeah, I'm not on the speakerphone, Lisa. Let me try and adjust. I'm gonna mute myself and adjust my mic and see if that helps better.
all right. So I'll start for Jenny
Is
while
that
she.
any better?
Go ahead.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. You're a little bit. There's a little bit more background noise, but I can hear you fine.
Okay. I think it's time for a new headset. So I'll just put down this list really quick, and I'll try and talk a little bit loud without going into the red. Getting them to click. So when you're picture yourself watching your Twitter feed or watching your Facebook feed. You don't have much time to attract somebody's attention. And there are some time-tested, proven methods to create a headline that will get people to click. And one of the surefire ways is to make a list. One of the reasons is because subconsciously we think this is going to be an easy article to read, this is going to be an easy article to scan, which people do more often than actually read. And it's going to be something that I can implement easily. So,
and so when you're talking about a list, you're talking about like 3 steps to blank, or 5 ways to do something, or top 7 tips for better SEO, or something like that.
Yeah, anything that has a list on it, people love, and I'm guilty of it as much as anyone else. I'll click on a list, much faster than any other post that I think I'm going to have to really read, which is terrible, but it's just human nature these days.
I don't think it's
Another one,
necessarily terrible. If I can interject real quick, I'll say the other thing I like about the list headline is that it's easier to write. So if I'm going to write a quick post, and I have three main points that I want to say, I can come up with a headline. Uh, three ways to move your website or something like that, and then um, I just make a bulleted list and I fill them out. I mean, it gives me sort of a structure for the document.
yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. They're much easier to write too.
Yeah.
Yeah. The secrets headline works too. If you're telling somebody a secret or some little known way to do something, they're likely to click on that. It's a little bit of, these are all link baits, let's just face it. But you want your message to get heard. You want your blog to be read. And so don't be afraid to be a little baby in your headlines. It's really your one chance to capture their attention and get them to click. Um, the the open-ended kind of intriguing headline. Do you do this? And I gotta tell you, I actually catch myself all the time clicking on these from people that I probably wouldn't normally read, and I can't help myself. It's like looking at an accident on the street. These headlines always get me because I want to know what the heck they're talking about. You can't overuse this type of headline though, because people will get sick of it pretty quick and feel manipulated. But every once in a while, you can throw in a little intriguing type of headline, a leading headline.
Yeah.
Yeah. The definitive headline, absolutely get rid of this forever. The quick and easy way to finally do this. Again, because people are looking for answers and they want quick answers and they want something they can implement. And this starts it off with a feeling of authority. And then the shocking headline. Maybe not the best example, but I bet I would click on that freaking blog post if I saw it come up because I like sesame seeds.
Is this a
Um,
real headline you saw?
no,
Oh, okay.
no, that's just what popped out of my scary brain. Um, but yeah, so the shocking headline works. But again, that's something that you have to use with caution. And when you're using a shocking headline, make sure that it's a post that has a positive message or a positive spin on it. Because if you entice somebody to click on something because it's shocking or intriguing, um, and then all you do is complain or tell them what not to do or leave them with a negative message, they're probably not going to come back again. So, I'm getting into the content area, but there's a balance between how to use baby type headlines and responsibly
Yeah.
with integrity.
So what you're saying is if you use the shocking headline, make sure to shock them once they get to the content?
Make sure to shock them, but don't shock them too much. I mean, it should be like a ranty type post.
Right.
I think that you know blog posts in general, fare better if they leave their readers with a positive message, and
Sure.
even if it's just how to speed up your WordPress site, right? Um, yeah,
Sure. Yeah, it seems to me like the shocking headline is kind of the modus operandi of Huffington Post. It's like, like see so and so topless on the beach or whatever. They always have something that seems like incredible link bait. But
absolutely, and they took over the internet pretty fast.
yeah, yeah, they get a lot of traffic for that stuff. One thing that we talked about last month, you and I talked about with respect to posting on the IvyCat site, is we had some writers who were writing posts that have titles like "The Ultimate Guide to WordPress SEO" or "The Ultimate This" or "The Ultimate That." And while I think those can be appealing to some people, personally, I am tired of seeing those kind of headlines. I see them all over the place, and they're rarely ever the ultimate guide. It's usually a headline that gives you my take on it or something like that. If I want to click on an ultimate guide thing, I want really more perspectives and really more of an ultimate guide. So
Absolutely. Yeah, make sure you back it up.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit then about some steps to better blog posts. So, like, we'll just kind of go through some of these. Use headers in your posts, and we say blog posts here, but I'd say that these really apply to writing in general on the web. So whether it's a post or a page or something else. Um, I think headers are just a really great way to break up the page. So when I say headers, not just the headline of the post, but within the post to break up your copy with headers. So, if you're writing in sort of the traditional kind of 5 paragraph essay that we probably all learned in high school, where you kind of say in the first paragraph what things you're going to cover, and then the following paragraphs um, each paragraph takes one of those topics, and then the final paragraph sort of wraps everything up. I would say for the middle 3 paragraphs, you want a header that sort of encapsulates the content of that paragraph. And there's a few reasons for that. One with headers is that people tend to scan on the web rather than read, right? So they're looking really quickly down the page to see what applies to them. I mean, I'm a big proponent of saying, hey, we as web consumers are very selfish. We're always asking, internally, what does this mean to me? Or do I care about this? And so by putting good headers within your content, you can make it much easier for folks to pick out sections that are relevant to them. Like in a post on, 5 ways to make better SEO on your WordPress site, you might have some experience with that. So you're just looking for that one tip you don't have experience with. So in a post about better SEO on WordPress, if you have the different sections, sort of say what that section is going to talk about in the header, then people can almost just read the headers down the post and figure out if there's any new information for them. And another thing there with regard to search engine optimization is that when you use headers, try to put in keywords that are relevant to your content. So so I consider headers throwaway headers if they have just fluff words in them. But, if we were writing about better search engine optimization on a WordPress post, my headers wouldn't say, my headers in the article would try to use the term SEO or search engine optimization or something related to that. Not all, I mean, you don't want them to look spammy so that every header starts with SEO colon, like write better SEO colon this, but if you can naturally work your keywords into headers, it helps. And the reason it helps is that search engines give more weight to headers than they do to body copy. The other thing here, I'd say like front load your copy. And this is kind of another no-brainer, but I see a lot of people don't quite understand it. With writing on the web, you want to say what you mean to say up front. So if you're writing in sort of a 5 paragraph or a 10 paragraph essay format, that first paragraph should give an overview of the entire post. So if nobody reads past the headline in the first paragraph, they get the gist, but they can follow down the post, looking through your headers and the additional paragraphs to get more information. So, front
I
load.
also,
Yeah, go ahead.
oh, sorry. I also recommend at the end of the first paragraph to leave it with a leader, like
Oh,
learn how, read on to learn more or something like
right.
that. That actually works.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great point. Use short paragraphs. This one also seems a little bit like a no-brainer, but sometimes we see people generating content for their sites, or we get content from customers that they want to add to their site where it's huge blocks of text, like what you would expect to see in chapter 1 of Moby Dick, these just huge, monstrous paragraphs. And the fact is, they just look like big blocks of text on the web. So even on the web, I think sometimes it's good to break from traditional, formal English guidelines and actually break some of your paragraphs up into single sentences or a couple sentences. My general rule is I like to see paragraphs that are no longer than like 3 to 4 lines long. And it makes them a lot easier to scan and digest.
Yeah, everyone's a scanner these days, so you have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, So then we've got use lists. And when I'm talking about lists, I'm meaning like bulleted lists or numbered lists. So, if we were doing one of those headlines that you were talking about earlier, like 5 ways to better, SEO, or to kill your sex life with poppy
Sesame
seeds or
seeds.
sesame seeds or whatever.
It can happen.
Yeah, exactly. So then it's good to actually use the numbered list feature, make a numbered list. Like if you're using WordPress, there's a really easy, thing in the editor where you click it and it'll make numbered lists for you. So 1, 2, 3. And lists are just really easy to scan. The other thing is, just paying attention to the way that the human eye reads, or we tend, or at least in the US, we're a left to right language. So people tend to start at the top left of the screen and read or horizontally across to get the headline. And then they sort of scan down the left-hand side of the page, looking at headers and looking at paragraphs. And lists, because of their vertical nature, are really easy to scan. And the bullets actually even make them easier to scan, or numbers make them easier to scan. So I'm a huge fan of lists, because I just think that they're easier for the eye to digest. And then I made this point up front, but write to the customer, which means you have to know your customer. So writing to the customer means writing in a way that engages with them more than is about yourself. So like one of my illustrations here, and we'll get into this a little bit more when we talk about the About page, is that we'll commonly see people write about themselves. They'll focus on themselves rather than the reader, or they'll focus on technical aspects of the product or service rather than focusing on the solutions that it'll provide to the reader, or what will help the reader. So instead of using things like we and us, try to use you and yours, and really try to I don't know, you can probably kick in on this and help me out, Jenny, but what I don't like to see is when I visit a website and the first paragraphs that you read are like, we have been in business since blah, 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 and we are the known leader in blah, 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 and we do this, and we do that, and we do that. And my head hits the table and I want to fall asleep or just go somewhere else. But if I were to hit a competitor's website, and instead of them saying, we do this and we do that, if they say, we're going to help you get your time back,
Yeah.
or we're going to, make you more profitable by showing you these 5 tips to blah, 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 then all of a sudden they're engaging with me.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and you have to keep that in mind, because it's really an easy pitfall to fall into, because we're so used to talking about how awesome we are that we forget that we're actually writing to somebody else. So think about how you like to be approached when you go to somebody's site, and and just start being aware of when you're really attracted to a site. And if you pay attention, you'll probably find that they're talking to you and only telling you about themselves in as much as how they can help you.
Right. Yeah. So, all right, we're going to look at some more steps here. So use words that inspire emotions. So I am a big fan of trying to do whatever you can to establish an emotional connection with the client or with your potential customer. So you see this, and when we talk about emotions, there's all sorts of emotions that you see played on in marketing. I mean, fear is one of the biggest ones. Like, if you don't get our antivirus, you're going to get infected, or your website is in danger if you don't have good backups, or, stuff like that sort of plays on what I'm missing out on if I don't use your product or service. So there's that sort of stuff. There's also inspiring to people's or playing to people's emotion of happiness, like trying to make them feel safe or happy, or I'm in the right place. So when writing your copy, I would say look through your words and see where you can substitute words that are really emotional words.
Yeah, there's also another cheat you can do here, that because we really don't buy anything anything without feeling some kind of emotion or some kind of need, um, emotional need. But there's a cheat that you can do also, and that is to write with sensual words, words that make you think of smell or a sound or a feeling,
Hmm.
a touch. These words automatically will inspire an emotional response in people. So be descriptive and be emotional. Let it out. Yeah.
So when you say sensual words, you're talking about like see, hear, taste,
Yep.
feel, that kind of stuff.
hmm Yeah. Yeah, not sexy, but
Right.
to awaken the senses in somebody, it's a very effective way to draw them into what you're saying,
Yeah, that
and
makes
to
perfect
inspire
sense.
emotion. Yep.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. I mean, those senses are our connection to, our connection between the world and our emotions, I guess. Or um, so using
So
act. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to address Lauren's question real quick. So if you say, I picked up the book and opened it up, and instead you said, I picked up the book and I smelled the scent of old paper, and I felt the roughness of the leather cover. And so you start to describe the senses involved in that picking up the book, and all of a sudden the reader is much more interested in the fact that you picked up a book. So that's an example.
Yeah, that's a really good example. Um, all right, so using active voice. Um, so I can explain this. Jenny, do you want to talk about this?
You, no, you go for it.
All right. So using active voice, like, um, I'll tell you, if you don't know what active voice is, just go Google like active versus passive voice in writing, and you'll find some great examples. But um, it has to do with the way you construct your sentences. Like, and I should have sort of pasted a good example of this ahead of time, but um,
So an example might be an active voice would say, I walked to the store. And then a passive way of saying it would be, I should have too. So I know it when I see it.
yeah, well, or you'll see people say like, it is preferable to do the blah blah blah, or and that's not actually even maybe a great example. We've got Lisa on the line here. Lisa, I don't know if you're in front of your computer, but maybe you can give us a good example of an active versus passive voice. But basically, what it boils down to me is I want to be clear and direct to the customer, or when I'm writing, rather than being sort of esoteric and backwards. Like if you read just about any business writing from the 80s or 70s, it's all passive voice. It's all like technical manual stuff. Like if you pick up a technical manual, most of those are written, or used to be written in passive voice.
Yeah, anything that has been or have been or was, that tends to lean towards passive.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So using active voice, and I apologize, we don't have better examples of this, but you do this, rather than it is better, or it is preferable to do step one before step two. If you say, do step one, then step two, it's a lot more direct and active.
right, like I ate a cookie instead of the cookie has been eaten.
There you go.
Um,
Perfect. There you go. Um, so drawing the reader in. So I think the rest of the points sort of point at this too, or get to the same thing here. But basically, keep your copy simple, clear, and concise. Um, in our case, we want to talk to our readers as if they were friends or family members. We want to be really straight and sincere with them, and we'll spell it out and explain points that need explaining. But we really don't want to leave readers second guessing what we're trying to say. Um, so Oh, Jennifer Williams had a good example. Like the agenda was approved by the committee. That's a good one. Or Lisa says, to go with the central theme, Steve loves Amy versus Amy is loved by Steve. That's
Yeah, yeah,
perfect.
that's a good one. Yeah.
So yeah, thank you, Lisa. You're a hero. So remove obstacles, counter the no's. So when I'm saying remove obstacles, I mean remove obstacles to purchasing or taking a call to action. So if you've got a guarantee or something like that, you can let them know. So an example here is like, well, I'll use IvyCat as an example. We sell hosting or WordPress support. So what are some people? What are some objections that people might have to using our WordPress support services? One might be cost. You know, we charge $35 a month to do this. So how can I, within our copy, address that cost and show it as a value rather than as sort of a liability? Or another obstacle people might have is, well, if they're doing maintenance on my site, how do I know that everything's going to be backed up, or that they're going to take good care of it before they try and update stuff? Or if something breaks, can we roll back? You know, so addressing those kind of concerns up front by showing, hey, we do backups on a daily basis, that sort of stuff. Try to just brainstorm what are all the things that people might say no to, or the things that might cause them to go, I'm just not so sure, and address them. So, you know, one thing you see often on sales sites, like if they sell products or services, one way they remove an obstacle is to offer a guarantee. Hey, we've got a 30-day or a 60-day guarantee. And that's a pretty tried and true method to remove some obstacles for certain types of products or services to folks if they feel like they've got a fallback. Like if I'm not happy, I can get out of it, and there's really no harm done.
This is another great place where you can just ask people, you know, send out a poll and just find out what their no's are.
Right. Yeah,
if you don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Or you know, another thing you can do, like something we've done, is called up some customers that we really like and say, hey, you know, you saw this email that went out from us. What did you think about this? Or how did this address such and such for you? Or you know, what could we have done better? That sort of stuff. And then I think we'll round out these 10 tips with having a clear, simple call to action. So, you know, if you, like most websites out there that are small business websites, have a purpose. You know, they either want to get leads from a customer, they want people to call them up and say, hey, you know, can I use your services? Or they want online purchases, or they want people to, you know, sign up for their email newsletter or whatever. And I think it's important to figure out what that call to action is on each page or post and make sure that it's easy to find, it's clear, it's simple, and that it's not one call to action among 90 calls to action. So one thing that we do oftentimes in the web industry is if somebody is doing a special campaign for a certain product, say, rather than have that campaign point traffic to their homepage, we would create a landing page that is the target of that campaign. So when they send out their email newsletter and they say, hey, come check out our new product, instead of just linking to, you know, domain.com's homepage, they go to not just the product page for that domain, but to a very special landing page that's crafted to remove remove obstacles, which in this case might be other calls to action or other things on the page that are vying for attention. And we just tailor that page so that it's really clear and simple and easy to understand and has one main call to action. We did this recently for a nonprofit that's here in Washington, and they're doing a big fundraising campaign that has some matching funds involved. So if they raise a certain amount of money, then they get a whole bunch of extra money that's from another benefactor. And we did a landing page just like this. We actually did a landing site for them because we wanted a real clear, concise, brief message that people could read, understand, and take action on. And so, you know, one thing I'll say that it doesn't really have to do with copy so much is on landing pages like that, sometimes it means get rid of the sidebar. You know, sometimes it means just make a simpler page, which is what we did in this case.
Yeah, absolutely. And even for blog posts, end them with a call to action, even if it's just leave a comment, which is often the call to action for a
Hmm.
post. But really, don't waste your time writing anything for your site unless it ends with a call to action of some type.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's great. All right, so we're gonna let's see. Carol had a quick question. She says, "I was trying to think of an active passive voice example. What did you say about drawing the reader in? Can you please repeat?" So, what did I say about that? Basically, it's along the same lines. Keep things clear and concise. Talk to the reader as you would sort of a friend or a family member. Be engaging. Um, and then be straight and sincere. Spell out or explain any points that need explaining, but don't leave them second guessing stuff. That's I can probably make a better bullet point for this in the future, but really, with IvyCat, we decided, or I should say, I decided early on and sort of imposed this on people, but I think we all kind of do the same thing, is that when we write, we want to be conversational. We want people to feel like they feel when they talk to me on the phone. And so that's the voice we shoot for. And when we're writing, we want to have our copy convey that, nice, brief, easy to understand, not too overly technical, um, and engaging with the reader. So, all right. So I'm going to go forward here and let's talk about the about page. And I'm going to turn it over to you here to talk about the about page, Jenny.
Yeah, the dreaded about page. The about page is one of the probably the most difficult things on the site for people to write for themselves. It's probably the thing that I get hired the most to write, because it's very personal and it's very difficult to separate um, your story from what it means to the readers. So that's what you really have to keep in mind, is that people are going to click on your about page and they want to know about you. But like I said before, they only want to know about you in as much as how are you going to help them. And to do that, you need to tell them a little bit of your story. There's a simple formula that I offer people, and that's where I was, what I did, and where I am now. And that is just a summary that you give people, whether you're a big company or a solopreneur. When did you start? Why did you start? And what can you do for me now? So
That's neat.
yeah, yeah. So it really works. It's a simple formula, and again, I recommend people, scan other people's about pages and find ones that really inspire you, and then take it apart and figure out why. Because if it inspires you, it's also going to inspire your perfect people or your ideal customers or whatever you want to call them. But the about page is an important opportunity to reach somebody emotionally, like we were talking about earlier. It's an important time to inspire people, and to start to feel trust in you. So don't take it lightly, and then don't let it drown you.
So,
Also.
yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm sorry. I was just going to ask, can we identify what a bad about page is and what are some attributes of a bad about page or a good about page? And one thing I often talk to people about is what's the difference between your about page and your home page? Because I think a lot of new website owners or people just getting started tend to think that their homepage content should really be more like about page content.
Right. Right, and that is an important distinction. The homepage is introducing to the people to what you do very easily, very quickly. They can scan the homepage and know what you want to do for them. The About page is where you can explain why you can do this for them, what your experience is. Um, but everything that you put on the About page has to be pertinent to what you're actually offering the customer. And I use the example, there is a site, a blogger that's a lawyer and offers some lawyer counseling. And on their About page, they have a list of relationships and when they broke up, and then they're literally crossed off. Um, and this is not something you want on your About page. It doesn't matter what you're selling. Um,
What kind of lawyer is
uh,
this, by the way?
It's a very strange lawyer. She's a very strange person. And but I have it bookmarked. I've had it bookmarked for like 4 years because I refer to it sometimes just to remind me what a bad about page is, and because people don't believe me unless I actually show them.
Have you
But
noticed
it's true.
movement in their relationships? Are they
Yes,
crossing off
yes,
more people all the time?
yes, yes. Just recently, as a matter of fact. Um,
Oh
it's a true
my.
story, I swear. Yeah.
So,
So people don't care who you're dating. People don't care, how well you knit unless you're selling knitting. They don't really care what your hobbies are. And these are kind of hurtful things to hear, because we want people to care about all these little things about ourselves,
but
but
this
they
is why
really
we have
don't.
Facebook and Twitter, right? Like this is when
Exactly.
you go
Yeah.
share that with your friends on Facebook, but they don't need to know who you just broke up with on your website.
Right. Right. Keep it to Instagram and not your about page. Yep.
Yeah, one of the things that I think sometimes, like I guess when I was first getting started writing about pages versus home pages or whatever, um, first of all, when I first got started, I couldn't tell the difference. I wrote about page text on every home page. I mean, I will fess
Hmm.
up to making every mistake coming, that has to do with copywriting. But then once I got a little more educated about it, I started to think about the about page more in terms of how it's used. And how I see more people use the about page is simply to legitimize a business. Just like if I've gone and done some research on the best new, geek widget, and I land up at the geek widget website, their homepage probably directs me through the site to the different types of geeky widgets, and gives me some base information. But the about page would be really, I used to think of more like a resume or a CV, where this is where you talk about the business and how long you've been in business and that sort of stuff. Like I was saying in the beginning, I hate when I land at a homepage and they say, we've been in business since 1992 and we're doing blah, blah, blah. I think it's really boring. And I've done that myself. Um,
Hmm.
so I think people use the about page more to legitimize the business. They get a cue from the home page or from whatever page they land on, what the site's about. And then if they're interested enough, they may check out the about page to see if you really are who you say you are, or if there are other things there that make them feel better or remove obstacles for them doing business with you.
Absolutely. And another thing that I've noticed, and this is a mistake that I see a lot, is that the home page itself doesn't tell people what they're doing, and I'll find myself going to the about page to figure out what the heck they're doing or trying to do. So don't make that mistake. Be clear about what you're doing in your home page, but
Right.
wait for the credentials and the discussion and the development of a relationship and for the about page. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some things I think are kind of important on the about page, and you hinted at this earlier, Jenny, are making sure that you say clearly what you do and what sets you apart from other people in your field that you do. Like what differentiates you, and why would someone choose you over someone else? And yeah, I guess I don't have much more to say about that, but really just making sure that when someone reads the about page, they get enough of a feeling for who you are or who your business is, and that they know what makes you different or what makes you better than other people, or how you're focused, and and
Yeah,
then
they're gonna read your about page before they're gonna contact you. So
yeah,
keep that in mind. This is to sell. This is
yeah,
to sell what you're selling, and get them interested and get them to trust you, and yeah, get them to know exactly why you're different than all the rest.
yeah.
Um,
All right. So I think we've got one more major slide left here, which is why stories sell. um, and I'll let you talk about this one too.
okay, well, I know we have a couple of people here who attended my copyright the summer camp, and I, we focused very strongly um, on your story. Stories sell because of what we were talking about earlier. Stories sell because emotions sell, and again, people do not buy a stick of deodorant without feeling something. It's a true story. And so you have to engender a lot of emotion in your writing. And stories are a great way to do that. And we love reading stories. We like hearing stories, especially stories about mistakes people made.
Mm-hmm.
What I've done wrong, don't do this. People love it, and they love it for two reasons. They love it because then they don't feel alone because they know that they've made mistakes too. And they also love it because you're opening up to them on a level that they can relate to as a human, on an emotional level.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that will engender trust. So I, when people come to me and say, how can I really break out of my writing? How can I really, push the boundaries here and find my voice? I tell them to write the post that's going to make them puke. Tell the story that when you go to hit the publish button, it's going to make you feel like you're going to puke, right? You're really scared. And this works well for solopreneurs and small businesses too, because that one thing that you're afraid to share because you're convinced that everyone is going to distrust you or dislike you if you share it. When you do share it, what you find is everybody's like, oh my God, me too, and you're so brave for sharing that, and now we're going to listen to what you have to say about whatever it is that you're writing about. So it's if you're really struggling to find your voice, write that story that's really going to make you feel queasy, and make yourself publish it,
Yeah.
on some form,
Mm-hmm.
and that'll break you out of it real quick. Yep.
I think that is a really, really terrific recommendation. And I see in my own life, like I will frequently, like I organize a few meetups, or I'm involved in meetups, and they usually have to do with web kind of stuff. And so I am not bashful about telling people I've made all sorts of mistakes in the web world over the course of the years. And like I've made mistakes with customers, I've made coding mistakes, I've made business decision mistakes or whatever. And every time I tell those stories, I get so much engagement from people. And it's if I've got a room full of people that I'm nervous about talking to, as soon as I tell one of those stories that makes me look like a doofus, uh,
Hmm.
the whole mood lightens up. I mean, I can see people's shoulders sort of rest a little bit, and smiles and laughs, and that helps me go forward. And and it and I definitely establish a rapport with people pretty quickly by, they feel like, oh, he's being honest. He's told us he's made all of
Exactly.
these mistakes. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And
I,
that's what it's about. It's about building trust. Yeah.
there's a guy who's really well known in the WordPress community, and I'll post a link to his site here. His name is Chris Lemma. Um,
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and he writes a blog post every day, or he publishes a blog post every day, I should say. And he is really big on telling stories. And if you guys look up his blog, um, you may or may not like his writing style or whatever. I happen to like it. I've seen him speak in person, and he's always a storyteller. He's the guy who starts out his presentation on business by telling about his dad taking him to a baseball game when he was 5, and that feeling of, the smells of the popcorn, and the feeling of the glove in his hand, and how he felt when his dad said this or whatever. And without fail, I mean, I feel emotion when I read his stuff. So that's a tip I've got for people. Go look this guy up. He writes more than you can possibly read, I think, but you can pick up some good tips. He writes about copywriting. He writes about all sorts of things around the WordPress community. So
Yeah, he's a machine.
he is a machine. He's a publishing machine, but he's big on the stories. So I think that's the bulk of what we wanted to cover today. We've got some other links here just for ways that you can connect with us. I know we said this is a pitch-free seminar, so this is not. These are our calls to action, and I'll be passive about them. But feel free to connect with us if you like. On the blog, you can sign up for blog updates if you haven't already, and you'll get notices when we do these office hour seminars. We've been doing them once a month. Also, I want to take some more questions from people here in a moment, but We've got a link from last month's office hours where we talked about
Yeah.
how to speed up your WordPress site. And I think Jenny's going to post that link for us here. We've
Yeah.
got the video up on the site, so you can check it out and see if it's interesting to you. And what was the other link we were going to post?
This will be the link where the replay will be shown.
Oh, okay, yeah. So we've got a link on the site. This one, the free pitch webinar, right? Killer content. We're going to make a video out of this and we'll post it back there. So if you didn't get a chance to pay attention and you want to later for some reason, you can go there and find it. And then I've got a few other links that I'll post here. Actually, 2 recommendations with regard to writing content for the web. One of them is called Letting Go of the Words, Writing Web Content That Works. I think this book is by a lady named Ginny Reddish, and it's really about how to write for the web and what are some different concerns in writing for the web. She goes into great detail about a lot of the points that we made here. Another one is Content Strategy for the Web, and I'm looking at a link on paper here, so I'll have to dig that link out and post it. But I will do that. I think both of them are really great tools, and there's a ton of great books out there on writing good web content. Okay, great. So so what questions do we have out there?
Oh, that's an ugly link. Sorry.
That's all right.
Another one coming.
So
yeah, anybody have any questions?
Yeah, feel free to shoot them into the GoToMeeting here, and we'll do our best to answer them. Well, while we're waiting for a question, one thing I'll say, which is not a pitch really, but just my experience is that I have had trouble writing good content for the web, and it's not so much that I can't write or that I don't know what decent content is. It becomes a time thing for me because I got a bunch of different things going on. So I'm going to just throw it out there that I'm a big proponent of hiring good copywriters to do your copywriting for you. There's a lot. I mean,
me too.
Yeah, I'm sure you would be as a copywriter. I just think, it's one of those things that people think, oh, I've been writing all my life, I can do it. But there are, we've sort of scratched the surface of some tips that can help with creating better copy. But there's really a lot out there. And sometimes if you've got a business that you're trying to run and you've got a bunch of other things that you need to pay attention to, hiring, somebody like Jenny or Lisa Samuelson or one of the other copywriters that we like can be really helpful, because these are people who have been doing this for a long time, that know the types of questions to ask. They know how to finesse the right content out of customers, or to ask the questions that get to the heart of the matter. So when all else fails and you're ready to pull your hair out because you're having trouble writing content, consider forking over some cash and hiring a good copywriter.
Yeah, and thank you, Carol. I'm blushing here. I just felt my face get hot.
Yeah, that's a nice compliment. Carol says that she hired Jenny to write her copy, even though she's a copywriter. Yeah, and
Carol's a wonderful writer, so that's a huge compliment.
Yeah, well, that's great. And I mean, I'm probably nowhere near the writer that Carol is, but I can write pretty well. But I love having Jenny write copy for us because, like I said earlier, she does a good job at getting voice and that sort of stuff. So. All right, so folks, I don't see many questions trickling in here, but thank you all for showing up. I'll just invite you to visit the link to the blog post that Jenny posted, this one here. In fact, I'll repost it here. It's the free pitch webinar one. Yeah.
I got it.
Anyway, if you come up with questions over the next couple of days or whatever, just feel free to visit that blog post and put some questions in there, and we'll be happy to sort of continue the discussion there. And as soon as we get this webinar encoded, we'll post the video up there too, so you can share it with your friends if you feel like it was helpful. So with that, I want to thank you all for attending. I really enjoyed this, and I hope you guys got something out of it, and look forward to hopefully seeing you next month. We haven't announced the topic for next month. I think we have to...
We haven't decided on this.
We'll decide on that, and we'll get it posted pretty quickly. But we'll probably do something.
And any ideas, leave them in the comments.
Yeah. Absolutely. If you guys have ideas, or you'd like us to cover other specific things with regard to websites or WordPress or stuff like that, we're game. We can interview people. We can do all sorts of stuff. So thanks again for showing up, and I hope you guys have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Bye. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.